Church on Jogo Road. The political leaders want the president to quickly deal with officers in his government associated with corruption. Let's listen in.
What do the Russians do? Alisema Mheshimiwa Mbugu kwamba baba yake alikuwa kasisi and he never lacked bread. This is the example I wanted to just use and let the church know that the moment is now. I therefore want to congratulate His Eminence Archbishop Sapiti of the Anglican Church. Why are you disturbing my friend? Umeniharibia mafikira ndugu ama umetumwa mahali. Kwa hivyo msimamo huo aliotoa Archbishop Sapit ni msimamo wa maana sana, na sioni kama kuna haja ya mabishano baina ya madhehebu mbalimbali juu ya swala hili. And in fact, Mheshimiwa Kamanda, I didn't know that within the Catholic Church you have the similar kind of thing. My background is Africa Inland Church, and ideally even your right hand should not know when your left hand is giving. I think that is more blessed. Of course, the Bible says it's more blessed to give than to receive. I do not want to preach. And therefore, mimi naona kwamba swala hili la how Mheshimiwa Provost and the church, it's a very healthy conversation. I've seen a good friend of mine called Reverend Kefa Mai of the Redeemed Gospel Church and Bishop Kitonga, who would have a slightly different view. It's healthy to discuss. And so when the leaders also come up and say the time has come to actually question solidly if we are going to win the war against corruption, and it's a war that we must win and win. I can't imagine of an alternative. Fellow worshippers, you may not know the depth of this problem. It is actually earth-shaking. I've been informed of a situation where money is borrowed by Treasury to come in as a loan.
Wiper Party leader speaking there at the St. Stephen's Church on Jogo Road during the call to prayer day. Kennedy Mureithi stays on that story. Now, a section of ODM members of parliament have scoffed at those accusing ODM leader Raila Odinga of killing opposition politics in Kenya by his decision to work with President Uhuru Kenyatta, daring them to take up that role in case they feel let down. The more than 12 MPs who were speaking in Kisumu this morning stated that it was a high time other communities played the role of the opposition in the country. Okusa is at St. Paul's Catholic Church in Kisumu, where the Mass has just concluded. Okusa, what led them to make those remarks?
Well, they made those remarks actually attributing them to the recent criticism that have been coming from other quarters that the opposition leader Raila Odinga has let down the opposition politics in Kenya by joining hands with President Uhuru Kenyatta. So they were scoffing at those who have been making those claims, saying that that move by Raila Odinga was well timed. They're actually saying that because of it, the region, that is Nyanza, and the entire country as a whole has registered remarkable economic growth, same to development, because they're saying that a handshake is all about development, peace and unity, and that is the reason why they're saying that they'll continue to support the handshake unequivocally and unrelentingly. Those are their words in that church just a while ago. They're saying again that for those who think that the opposition, but that the move by Raila Odinga and ODM to join President Uhuru Kenyatta to drive the government is a letdown, then they can as well go ahead and take up those positions and play the role of opposition in the country, saying that the Luo community was not, those are their words, was not created to be in the opposition. That this is the time for the Luos now to also enjoy the benefits of being in the government. And they're claiming that they'll be going around the country and even in Nyanza to popularize the the handshake initiative, the building bridges initiative that was brought about by the handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. Besides that, they have also spoken categorically about the war on graft. They are saying that they are a bit concerned with the lull on the war on graft. They want the DCI's office and the office of the Director of Public Prosecution to rekindle the fight against corruption. They are saying that they are a bit worried that that war has sort of fizzled out, and they will want to see a revival of the same, and the perpetrators of such vices, both in the counties and in the national government, brought to book. Again, finally, they have touched on the trip to China by President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, which, as you are aware, has been reported in a section of the media that did not achieve its goals to some level. So they are saying that the country should sit pretty and wait for the two leaders to return and tell them exactly what transpired out there and stop speculation, especially on the part of SGR, which they are saying that they are ready to accept anything, the outcome of the trip in China. They are saying actually that they are more comfortable with the previous, that is the old gauge, the meter. The standard, the old railway gauge, exactly, the old railway gauge, that they are actually comfortable with it, and that it will not even overburden the taxpayer. And therefore, even if the two leaders fail to secure funds for the extension of an SGR from Naivasha to Kisumu, then still they will be fine with the revival of the old rail, which they say will still spur economic growth in these parts of the country and the entire country as a whole. Back to you, Olive.
Thank you, Okukusa. The old railway gauge, as he puts it. Now I want to take us back to St. Stephen's Church on Jogo Road, where leaders are still speaking.
Our prayer, of course, is whatever happens there will not negatively impact the developments in the Republic of South Sudan. And that, first of all, wananchi walienda kila mahali kuuliza kwamba President Bashir atumuliwe mamlakani ama jiuzulu. Akakatilia pale mpaka finally they went to lobby the army. This is where Kenyans are actually timid. We are very timid, I must tell you that. One time nilienda nikapigwa tear gas pale. My friend Deputy President William Ruto akasema the last time I saw Kalonzo alikuwa na keti kwa lami akipigwa tear gas. And we got some measure of change. We got some change. Because we said IBC must change. I can't even envision members of parliament. I'm so happy that a lot of you are here today. And I want to talk to all the groups across the board. Whether you are Tangatanga or you are Kieleweke, you need to hear this. It is not about those groups. It's about our country. This is the bottom line. And I think that I'm now persuaded that if justice, because a famous jurist in the UK, forgive me for taking a little long, by a very famous jurist called Lord Goddard, Lord Dennett, who say that justice delayed is justice denied. Sasa wanaenda mahakamani, it's like everybody is prepared. Tuende tu kwa mahakama, shikweni tu mabilioni, haidhuru, tuende tu kwa mahakama, because they will even get any type of, sometimes even get bail, anticipatory bail, because that process will take forever. And Kenyans have one ability to forget and forget very fast. Na hivyo tunavyosahau, ndivyo tunazidi kulemewa na umaskini. Therefore, this year's theme by court, angamiza ufisadi, ndio nafasi za kazi zipate kubuniwa. It's a very timely theme, Mheshimiwa Francis Atwoli. And so, look at these MPs. I hear talk of war chest. Napokaribia uchaguzi, Mheshimiwa Susioni, yani mtu anaangaliwa yule hana pesa mabilioni hawezi kuchaguliwa president wa Kenya. I suffered that myself once. People looked at me and said, what does he gain?
We now cross over to the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, where Zainab Ismail is standing by. It was expected that the Education CS, George Magoha, would be flagging off CBC, that is competency-based curriculum material. Zainab, has that happened?
Indeed, Olive, like you rightly said, we are at the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, and we've seen a lot of stakeholders in the education sector streaming in here, and this is with regards to the CBC training materials that are supposed to be flagged off by the Education CS, Professor George Magoha, anytime from now. That is expected to happen this evening, and those materials are supposed to reach schools across the country from tomorrow. I remember there was a push and pull between the government, that is the Ministry of Education, and the Kenya National Union of Teachers on the CBC training that was happening last week between Tuesday and Friday. The training was targeting 91,000 teachers. We saw a bit of chaos in some centers that were holding those that particular training, but with that happened yesterday. The Education Cabinet Secretary, Professor George Magoha, came out to say that he was actually happy with the turnout of the teachers that came to the training, and it was quite successful, as he says. And remember, the Kenya National Union of Teachers was and is still against the competence-based curriculum from the very onset, saying it is unconstitutional and that the teachers still lacked training to be able to take over this role of training students on the CBC, saying 4 days is not enough for teachers to get the necessary training in order to give the best training for the students. And this is what we expect the CS to also speak on, and the way forward. And of course, these particular materials that are expected to be taken to the schools across the country, what they are supposed to do and what they're supposed to help in terms of training these young people in schools. Also, just to inform you, is the fact that in that particular training that happened last week, a team of 181 masters trainers trained 1,165 regular and special needs education curriculum support officers and 1,320 CBC champions as the trainers of trainers. And this is very important in terms of helping these trainers be able to impart the necessary skills on the teachers who are supposed to implement this particular curriculum. And meanwhile, the Education Ministry has also received about 1.5 billion for the improvement of schools infrastructure across the country. Remember, some schools are still grappling with infrastructural and challenges of infrastructure that are hindering the 100% transition policy implemented by the government and forwarded by the government. So it will be very interesting to see what the CS will be saying on the same. Olive will be giving you all updates on the same. I understand the CS is yet to arrive, but that is what we're expecting to happen this afternoon.
Thank you, Zainab. As Zainab said, she remains on that story. Now, leaders from West Pokot, led by Kapenguria Member of Parliament Samuel Moroto, have slammed those tarnishing Deputy President William Ruto's name by linking him to corruption. The leaders claim their motive is to scuttle DP Ruto's 2022 presidential aspirations. The legislators urged the DP to ignore his critics and instead focus on implementing government projects in accordance with the Jubilee Manifesto.
Kama kuna mtu ambaye anatembea mchana na usiku, hatujapata mwingine. Tumekuwa na vice presidents wengi katika hii Kenya. Hesabu wote tangu independent mpaka sasa. Lakini hakuna mwenye amefanya kazi kama William Ruto. Hata si kwamba wakati amekuwa deputy president.
This next one is interesting. Magarini Member of Parliament Michael Kingi has called on his brother and Kilifi Governor Amason Kingi to unite with Mombasa Governor Hassan Joho to seek the presidency in 2022. Kingi reiterated that the coast region needs a new political party outside the Orange Democratic Movement. This, Kingi says, would rally voters in the region.
Mafahali wawili wanaweza unganisha hii pwani. Na pwani ikiwa na sauti moja, mimi nataka kuambia, wakati pwani ikiongea na sauti moja, tutafaidi mali ya nchi hii. Lakini kama pwani hii haitaweza ongea na sauti moja, mambo ya kufaidi mali ya nchi hii tusahau.
Matatu operators plying the Rodi Sori Karungu Rodi Kopani Road are calling on the government to recarpet the road and save them from the losses they incur. The road that serves Rangwe, Ndiwa, Gwasi, Uriri and Nyatike constituencies in Homa Bay and Migori counties has been in a state of disrepair for years since it was constructed.
This is the situation here along Rodi Sori Karungu Road, the only tarmac road connecting Homa Bay and Migori counties. The 48 kilometers stretch of road built less than 5 years, but already has gaping portals, costing motorists and even travelers dearly.
Na hii barabara ilianza kuharibika hata kabla hii barabara ifike Kobodo. Barabara wameanza kutengeneza hapa kufika Ndiwa, barabara ishaanza kuwa na portals.
Wale wametokea, wanatoka hivyo mara hiyo inaharibika tena. Sasa hiyo kampuni ya kuunda hiyo barabara haikuunda hiyo barabara vizuri.
These portals are not only an eyesore but also a cause of many accidents along this road.
Barabara ni ndogo, mali watu wanangangania pia ni mali padogo. Iwezi kakuwa pazuri kabisa.
Hali unapata ya kwamba barabara ni mbaya. Sasa gari na watu wa pikipiki wanangangania pali pazuri. Sasa unapata inaleta confusion hadi unapata ajali imefanyika. Unaona? Pale kuna portals, maji, gari naona yezi, pikipiki yezi, tingatinga pia inakuja hapo. Unaona? Sasa tuko na shida sana ya barabara.
Unapata trailer imetoka labda Nairobi na vitu. Iwezi kitambo ifike kama sori, iwezi fika mapema. Kama ulifanya order, unaona lazima customer utapata ameenda mali pengine kwa sababu hiyo kitu ulikuwa naye iwezi fika mapema. So biashara lazima irudi chini, iwezi enda juu ya barabara.
Homa Bay County say the road is under the jurisdiction of the Kenya National Highways Authority and it therefore cannot intervene.
This road serves the Ruma Park. Now we are losing out even on the tourists who used to go to Ruma Park. So we appeal to the national government. The roads board came here towards the end of last year. We put our case that we wanted this road repaired. The problem had been the classification of this road. It was removed from Kenya to Kera, and we appealed that it goes back to Kenya so that the maintenance can be done. And as a process, as a county government, we have lost a lot in terms of economic activities.
Bernardo Juang, NTV.
Thousands of people in remote areas of storm-lashed Mozambique were left homeless and bracing for imminent flooding, food and water shortages as Cyclone Kenneth flattened entire villages, leaving rescuers struggling to reach them. Kenneth, which has killed 5 people, struck northern Mozambique late Thursday, barely a month after the country was hit by one of the worst storms in its history, which claimed hundreds of lives.
In the village of Nakata, south of Macomia, in the cyclone-ravaged Cabo Delgado province, many homes were destroyed, leaving families to fend for themselves in the open. Maria Mendoza and Asan Madal and their young children managed to salvage a few chairs, a table, a mattress, and cooking pots from their ravaged home. The UN's children's agency UNICEF said about 368,000 children were at risk and potentially in need of life-saving humanitarian support following the second storm. The Category 3 storm reached Mozambique after swiping the Comoros Islands. Mozambique's emergency agency, the INGC, has reported severe flooding, mudslides, and widespread power outages. It said Kenneth, which has receded into a tropical depression, had damaged or destroyed 3,300 homes and about 18,000 people were housed in emergency shelters. On Saturday morning, emergency workers, including Brazilian soldiers, OCHA personnel, and officials from UNICEF arrived in Pemba, the capital of Cabo Delgado, to assess the damage. Communities in central Mozambique are still reeling from Cyclone Idai, which hit on the night of March 14th to 15th, causing killer floods and swept away homes, roads, and bridges. The storm also smashed into Zimbabwe and Malawi. In the 3 countries, more than 3,000 lives were lost, and damage is estimated at around $2 billion.
Our prayers go to Mozambique. Now, Sudan's ruling military council and the opposition alliance have reached an agreement in principle to form a new body to run the country until the next election. Sadiq Al-Mahdi, a former prime minister and head of the opposition National Umma Party that has backed the protests, called for Sudan to join the International Criminal Court, which has indicted its ousted President Omar al-Bashir, as a panel of protesters and the military met to discuss civilian rule.
Sadiq Al-Mahdi's comments came as a joint committee representing the ruling military leadership and protesters held their first meeting to discuss a demand by demonstrators for a handover to civilian rule. The agreement was reached during a meeting on Saturday between the ruling Military Transitional Council (MTC) and the Declaration of Freedom and Change's Forces, an umbrella organization of opposition groups. After the fall of President Omar al-Bashir, following months of popular demonstrations against his 30-year rule, the MTC is now overseeing a 2-year transitional period during which it has pledged to hold presidential elections. Opposition groups and protesters, however, have continued to stage large demonstrations to demand that the ruling military council hand over power in a civilian administration.
Polls opened in Spain for uncertain snap elections marked by a resurgence of the far right after more than 4 decades on the outer margins of politics. Opinion polls give outgoing socialist premier Pedro Sanchez a win, but without the necessary majority to govern alone, he will have to seek alliances in a political environment that has soured since Catalonia's failed secession bid. There are 5 main parties that could form 2 possible ruling coalitions, one comprised of left-wing parties and regional nationalists, another with the traditional centre-right and the far-right. Sanchez took power in June after ousting conservative Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy. Deputy President William Ruto has urged Kenyans to continue registering for Huduma Number. Now that's back to Kenyan news. He also assured citizens that the registration is a process the government is using to ensure that there is accurate data for everyone. He was responding to concerns by the leaders regarding what they termed as discriminative tendency by the government, where getting crucial documents is challenging to pastoralists. He was speaking at the Bomas of Kenya, where he attended the Borana Annual Cultural Fair. The event attracted hundreds of people from all walks of life who came to catch a glimpse of the beautiful Borana culture. The event showcased the Borana culture through various elements, including the food, clothing, music and dance, among others.
We will instruct those concerned to make sure that the failure of government to provide a birth certificate or an ID cannot be used to deny a Kenyan child or a Kenyan citizen their right to be enumerated and to be given an Huduma number so that we can plan together going forward. I want to give you that assurance, my friends.
Now it's time for sports with Ida Waringa. Get into the world of sport, and defending champion and world marathon record holder Eliud Kipchoge is in the leading pack in the men's race, with 4-time Olympic champion Mo Farah in touching distance in the leaders pack. Bridget Koskei and defending champion Vivian Cheriot currently lead the women's race. Kipchoge set the world record of 2 hours, 1 minute and 39 seconds back in Berlin in September, and it was 3.5 minutes faster than Farah's best, and has 3 of the top 10 marathon times, Kipchoge that is. And the pictures that you're currently seeing are coming to you courtesy of Supersport.
Quality athlete Garamu has really, come to the fore, coming second in Chicago. He's already won this year's Lisbon half marathon in 59:37. He knows he's in good shape, and it doesn't look difficult for them to keep with Kipchoge at this stage. But Kipchoge.
the proclaimed greatest of all time there, Eliud Kipchoge. We will be keeping you up to date with the London Marathon. But to some football now. And Sofapaka will be hoping to strengthen their stranglehold on a second place when they take on Mathare United in a Kenyan Premier League clash in Machakos this afternoon. A rejuvenated AFC Leopards will face a stiff test against a third-placed Bandari FC in the second game of the day at Kenyatta Stadium. Ingwe will look to avenge the 4-1 demolition they suffered at the Dockers' hands in the first leg in Mombasa. Meanwhile, Zoo FC will host the troubled Mount Kenya United, with many waiting to see whether the bottom club will forfeit today's game in Kericho. International football now, and Lionel Messi came off the bench to score the winning goal in Barcelona's 1-0 victory over Levante, helping Barca wrap up their 26th La Liga title. The Catalans' attacking trio of Luis Suarez, Philippe Coutinho and Ousmane Dembele drew Sunday at 1 p.m. I will be sure to see you again at 9 p.m. For now, it's back to Olive.
Thank you, Ida. And I can't wait to see our man, Eliud Kipchoge, cross the London Marathon finish line first. Well, that's it for NTV at 1, but catch you at 9 p.m.